A dim October morning. In an aging apartment in Somerville, a suburb of Boston, Rachel Cooper was helping her 5-year-old son Noah get ready for daycare. The morning sun filtering through the window cast a faint glow in the dusty air. "Noah, don't you want to go to daycare today either?" Rachel asked gently while fastening the buttons of his small uniform. Noah remained silent, looking down. His profile showed more shadows than usual. "Mommy, everyone at school looks at me weird again, because I don't have a daddy." Noah's eyes glistened with small tears as he answered in a trembling voice. 6 months since separating from his father. The children's gossip and parents' glances had deeply wounded young Noah's heart. He must surely be sensing the cold reactions from others toward the mother and child who had moved from their upscale neighborhood. Rachel hugged her son tenderly. "It's all right. Mommy will definitely pick you up. After pickup today, we'll go shopping at Whole Foods. I'll buy you your favorite ice cream." At 35, Rachel was an experienced nurse with 10 years of work at Boston Children's Hospital. Her gentle personality, cultivated through working with sick children, along with her inner strength, had become her support in overcoming their current difficulties. Since deciding to separate, she had been forced to work part-time at a nearby clinic. Though her salary had decreased significantly, she was actually grateful for her current job that allowed her to spend more time with her son. Daniel, her husband and an IT company executive, played the role of an ideal husband on the surface. A Harvard Business School graduate serving as CTO at a startup in Kendall Square, he was highly regarded by those around him. However, at home, he had a strong desire to control his wife and child, installing surveillance cameras throughout the house and tracking their movements with GPS. It was a suffocating daily life where even social media was monitored. His expressions of love, shaped by being raised by a perfectionist mother, always came with control. His mother Margaret, a former psychiatrist at McLean Hospital, was outwardly an upper-class lady devoted to charitable activities. However, beneath her elegant exterior, Rachel had sensed an abnormal obsession and desire for control. "Mommy, is Daddy never coming back?" Noah asked anxiously while picking at his breakfast cereal. Rachel hesitated to answer. She was still fighting with Daniel over custody. The legal battle with his expensive lawyers was depleting Rachel's savings. "Noah, with Daddy, we're having some difficult discussions. But both Mommy and Daddy love you very much," Rachel answered while hiding her inner turmoil. From the next room, the red light of the installed surveillance camera still glowed. Trying to remove it would likely work against her in court. After finishing breakfast cleanup in the aged kitchen, Rachel packed Noah's lunchbox with sandwiches. A loving lunch made with affordable ingredients bought at Target. Cheese and ham sandwiches with apple slices. Even amid financial difficulties, she had vowed never to skimp on showing love for her son. "Well, shall we go?" The faint morning sunlight cast shadows behind the mother and child as they left the apartment hand in hand. While descending the old stairs of the 3-story apartment building, Rachel held in her heart a small hope for the start of another new day. On their commute, they stopped at Dunkin' Donuts as usual. Rachel added one chocolate donut, Noah's favorite, as a small encouragement. On the bus to daycare, Rachel held her son's small hand tightly. Her reflection in the window showed her wearing affordable clothes from Target, her face showing signs of fatigue. She looked quite different from her former poised self during her hospital days. "Mommy." Rachel smiled gently at Noah's anxious whisper. "It's okay. There's nothing wrong with you. Mommy will protect you." She felt her own voice trembling slightly as she said these words. Divorce mediation and custody battles. The cold gaze of her perfectionist mother-in-law Margaret. And her husband's twisted need for control. Could she protect her son from all of this? Her father-in-law Frank, a former police officer, merely watched despite noticing his wife's concerning behavior. The bus quietly drove through Boston's misty cityscape. Outside the window, New England's trees, beginning to show their fall colors, swayed in the cold wind. The scene seemed to mirror the mother and child's unstable emotional state. The road ahead would certainly not be smooth. However, Rachel was determined to keep moving forward to protect her beloved son. The chilly October morning air seemed to silently watch over her resolution. At 10 a.m., a sudden ringtone made Rachel's phone vibrate in the clinic's break room. Her body froze when she saw the name displayed on the screen. Margaret. It was her mother-in-law calling. Her heart raced. Ignoring the call might work against her in the custody battle. With trembling fingers, she swiped to answer. "Rachel? How are you?" Margaret's voice flowing from the receiver was elegant and calm as always. Having worked as a psychiatrist at McLean Hospital for many years, her voice had a mysterious power to put people at ease. Yet something lurking beneath it sent chills down Rachel's spine. "Yes. I'm fine. Actually, I'd like to talk with you. Shall we discuss reconciliation?" For a moment, Rachel felt hope at those words. But with the next words, that hope turned to anxiety. "Won't you come to our house? Preferably overnight. With Noah." "But Daniel will adjust his work schedule to come too. I think we need time to talk as a family. Frank is in Chicago on business, but even just us." Rachel hesitated. Her lawyer had warned her about appearing uncooperative. However, she was nearing her limit both financially and mentally. After the legal battles, her savings were depleted, and the clinic's salary alone made life difficult. "Noah must want to see me too, doesn't he?" Those words shook Rachel's heart. Indeed, Noah had mentioned Margaret several times. Despite complex feelings, his young heart probably missed his grandmother. As a mother, she couldn't ignore her son's loneliness after escaping their surveillance camera-filled life and starting to live in a new environment. "All right." After hanging up, Rachel heaved a deep sigh. Had it been the right decision? The cloudy sky visible from the break room window strengthened her ominous feelings. While packing at their apartment, she happened to meet Linda Parker, who lived across the hall, on the stairs. A former social worker, Linda had always greeted them with a warm smile. Today, however, her expression was somehow grave. "You shouldn't go near Margaret's house." Linda's sudden words surprised Rachel. "What do you mean?" "I know about her past. 30 years ago, at the hospital, but I can't talk about it in detail now. Just, be careful." Linda's serious gaze filled Rachel with indescribable anxiety. What did Linda's warning mean? Rachel continued preparing for departure. Minimal changes of clothes. Noah's favorite stuffed animal, Mr. Bunny. Phone charger. And, just in case, she slipped in a small flashlight. Mommy, are we going to Grandma's house? Noah asked while hugging his stuffed animal. His voice mixed expectation with anxiety. Yes, just for one night. While driving, she occasionally checked the GPS. The consciousness of being monitored by her husband never left her mind. On the way to Newton, Linda's warning crossed her mind repeatedly. But it was too late to turn back now. Under Boston's threatening sky, the car headed toward the suburbs. While gripping the steering wheel, Rachel suppressed the warning bells in her mind. In the rearview mirror, her son's sleeping face showed small shadows of anxiety. As Rachel's car entered the upscale Newton neighborhood, the sky had sunk into an even heavier gray. Margaret's house, reportedly built in the late 19th century, had an imposing red brick exterior with intimidating black iron gates. The meticulously maintained front garden featured New England-specific plantings arranged in such perfect order that it seemed unnatural. Margaret was waiting at the front entrance. With an elegant smile, dressed in what appeared to be an expensive tweed suit, she looked like a portrait of an upper-class lady. "I'm glad you came. Noah, you've grown so much." Margaret's voice was sweet as honey. However, some other emotion seemed to lurk behind her eyes. Noah stood almost hiding behind his mother. "Come, let's go inside." As the heavy wooden door opened, an interior with an antiseptic-like smell appeared. The perfectly arranged furniture, spotless floors, and surveillance cameras installed everywhere made Rachel feel suffocated. "Put your bags in the guest room upstairs. But first, how about some tea?" The tea Margaret served in the drawing room appeared to be expensive English-made. Rachel remembered countless tense tea times spent in this room. "Where's Daniel?" "Oh, his work is running late. He says he'll arrive late tonight." During their casual conversation, Margaret's gaze persistently followed Rachel's movements. She seemed less like a former psychiatrist and more like a researcher observing a test subject. "Noah, I found something interesting in Grandma's room. Would you like to see it?" At Margaret's sudden suggestion, Noah looked anxiously at his mother. Rachel gave a small nod, sending her son off. As their footsteps climbed the stairs, she felt increasingly uncomfortable. Left alone, Rachel decided to walk around the house a bit. The hallway had many locked rooms, and the door leading to the basement was secured with a heavy lock. Old photographs hung on the walls, all showing stiff family portraits. "Mommy." At her son's sudden call, Rachel rushed upstairs. Noah was holding an old album, pointing excitedly. "Look, Grandma says these are pictures from the hospital where she worked." The album showed a younger Margaret. Photos of her in a white coat standing with patients. However, there were traces where several photos had been cut out, and medical records-like documents were tucked beside them. "Noah, you shouldn't look at those things." Margaret returned to the room and quickly took the album away. For just a moment, anger flashed across her face. "It's almost dinner time. I've prepared a special dinner." At 6 o'clock, an extravagant dinner was laid out on the dining table. All Noah's favorites, New England clam chowder, lobster rolls, and Boston cream pie for dessert. "If I could be his real mother, I could do this every day." At Margaret's words, Rachel stopped eating. While trying to gauge the meaning behind this loaded statement, she watched her son. Outside the window, dusk was deepening. At midnight, in the second-floor guest room, Rachel lay awake. Listening to Noah's breathing beside her, she stared at the red light of the surveillance camera installed on the ceiling. The light blinked ominously in the darkness. "Mommy, bathroom." Noah suddenly woke up. Rachel took her son's hand and stepped into the dark hallway. The old mansion's creaking floorboards broke the silence. As they were returning from the bathroom, they heard faint sounds from downstairs. Rachel gripped her son's hand tightly and froze. Light leaked from the study, along with low voices. "Mommy." Silencing Noah's anxious voice, Rachel cautiously descended the stairs. Hidden in the hallway shadows, she listened to the conversation from the study. "It will all be over by tomorrow morning." It was Margaret's voice. "Mom, are you sure about this?" And Daniel's voice. When had he arrived? "Yes, of course. I'm the suitable mother for that child. Noah can't be left with an immature mother like Rachel. We'll just remove the obstacle. You understand that's best, don't you?" Rachel's spine froze. Margaret's voice held a cruelty she'd never heard before. "I'm the suitable mother for Noah, just like 30 years ago." Those words brought back Linda's warning. What happened at the hospital 30 years ago? With unsteady steps, Rachel led Noah to the kitchen. There might be some clues. What she saw there made her catch her breath. On the counter was an empty sleeping pill box. In the drawer, she found used syringes. Beside them were medical gloves and vials containing some kind of drugs. Rachel, still awake. The sudden voice nearly made Rachel jump. Turning around, there stood Margaret. Behind her perfect smile, she sensed unfathomable madness. "Oh, yes. Noah needed the bathroom. I see, but it's late. Shouldn't you rest? Would you like some of my special herbal tea?" Sensing the meaning behind those words, Rachel felt chills run down her spine. "No, thank you. We'll go back to our room." While hurrying up the stairs, Rachel was thinking of ways to escape. But the front door was locked. The back door and all windows were firmly sealed. Back in the room, she took out her phone. But the screen showed no service. They must have installed a signal jammer. She couldn't contact the police. "Mommy, I'm scared," Noah whispered in a trembling voice. Rachel held her son tightly. "It's okay. Mommy will definitely protect you." Just then, they heard footsteps coming up the stairs. Low laughter leaked from beyond the door. Rachel quickly pulled Noah under the bed. They lay still, holding their breath. Her heartbeat echoed loudly in her ears. The sound of the door opening. Heavy footsteps entering the room. "You can't escape anymore." Daniel's cold whisper echoed in the darkness. His voice held no trace of her former husband. He seemed completely controlled by Margaret. Like a nightmare, but this was undeniable reality. Rachel had to escape this situation to protect her son. But how? 1 a.m. In the guest room of the Victorian mansion's second floor, Rachel and Noah remained hidden under the bed. Beneath the fine Persian carpet, they held their breath. Thin moonlight streaming through the window cast eerie shadows across the room. "You can't escape, Rachel." Daniel's voice echoed coldly again. His footsteps slowly approached the bed. The sound of expensive leather shoes pressing against the floor pierced Rachel's ears. "Noah needs a more suitable mother." Margaret's voice. The former psychiatrist's usual composure had vanished, her voice now tinged with strange excitement. Rachel squeezed her son's hand tightly. In the darkness, she could feel Noah's body trembling slightly. Just then, Noah's nose must have itched, as a small sneeze escaped. A moment of silence. "Over there," Margaret's voice rang out triumphantly. Daniel's footsteps decisively approached the bed. The toe of his leather shoe entered Rachel's view. She sensed him bending down. His large hand reached for the bed skirt. At that instant, "Margaret!" "Daniel!" A sudden angry voice thundered from the entrance. "Frank!" Margaret's voice showed uncertainty for the first time. Heavy footsteps rushed up the stairs. Then multiple figures burst into the room. "Police! Don't move!" Bright flashlights illuminated the entire room. "Margaret Wilson, you're under arrest." Police officers restrained Margaret and Daniel. Rachel watched the scene unfold numbly from under the bed. "Rachel!" "Noah!" A low but powerful voice called out. Looking up, she saw her father-in-law Frank's face. The former police officer had apparently cut short his Chicago business trip to return. "Are you all right?" Frank gently helped Rachel and Noah out from under the bed. His arms conveyed the reliable strength of a former detective from the homicide division. "I should have noticed sooner." Frank's voice was filled with deep regret. "Linda Parker contacted me. She had been gathering evidence about Margaret's past incidents. So this was what Linda's warning was about." Rachel began understanding all the connections. 30 years ago, at McLean Hospital, Margaret. Frank's words trailed off. No further explanation was needed. Margaret's twisted obsession had existed long ago. "Mommy, are we safe now?" Rachel nodded firmly at Noah's trembling voice. "Yes, we're safe. No one can hurt us anymore." As Margaret was being led away by officers, she maintained her elegant smile until the end. But her eyes were completely hollow. Daniel just kept his head down in silence. Perhaps being freed from his mother's control was also a relief for him. The pre-dawn sky was visible through the window. The cold October wind gently stirred the curtains. After Linda's warning, I cut my trip short. Then I went straight to the police with the evidence she had gathered. Rachel nodded deeply at Frank's explanation. Linda, their neighbor, had been consulting with families of Margaret's past patients. And quietly but surely gathering evidence. "Come on, let's get out of here." Led by Frank's voice, Rachel held Noah close as they left the room. She didn't look back while descending the stairs. She was certain this would be their last night in this house. The dawn light had begun faintly coloring the eastern sky. Like an announcement of a new day's beginning. The next morning, in an interview room at the Cambridge police station, all the truth came to light. 30 years ago, when Margaret was working at McLean Hospital, she showed an abnormal obsession with a 5-year-old son of one of her patients. Linda Parker began explaining while spreading out the evidence she had gathered. Old newspaper articles, copies of medical records, and cut-out photographs lay on the table. Under the guise of treatment, she tried to make him into her perfect son. Linda's voice trailed off. Though the incident was covered up by the hospital, she had received consultations from that family while working as a social worker. The cutout photos in that house's album. Rachel's words were met with Linda's quiet nod. Yes, they were of that boy. The syringes and drugs stored in the basement were probably. Frank opened his mouth heavily. I should have noticed. I sensed something was wrong with my wife, but I turned a blind eye to the superficial piece. I ignored my police officer's instincts. Even his Chicago business trip was actually an attempt to temporarily escape from his wife's concerning behavior. But Linda's emergency phone call had made him realize everything. Daniel grew up under his mother's twisted love. The detective in charge explained while looking at the report. He too was a victim. Rachel now understood the truth behind her husband's controlling behavior. Under Margaret's control as she played the role of the perfect mother, Daniel's expressions of love had also become distorted. They'll both need treatment in a facility for a while. Rachel nodded deeply at the detective's words. A few weeks later, the court granted Rachel full custody. Frank offered to support his grandson's upbringing. Please use my savings until you find a new home. Rachel nodded gratefully at her father-in-law's offer. In early November, Rachel and Noah moved into a new apartment in Somerville. Mommy, I'm not scared anymore, Noah said with a smile while unpacking boxes. From the new apartment's window, they could see the sunset over the Charles River. No surveillance cameras, no GPS tracking, no oppressive atmosphere. Boston Children's Hospital had also offered her a full-time position to return. She could build a new career using her previous experience. That's right, we're okay now. Rachel held her son close, savoring the expectation of their new life. Outside the window, early winter winds rustled through the remaining autumn leaves. Sometimes the nightmare-like memories resurface. But that's in the past. Rachel knew what was important now was to keep moving forward. A mother's love should never be about control or obsession. It should be gentle and warm, based on trust and understanding. The sunset streaming through their new home's window gently illuminated the mother and child's silhouettes. It looked like a hopeful light, announcing the beginning of a new life.